It's on. I'm on, right? Good. I'm glad you all are here this morning. I'm Dione Bowie. I'm the lead pastor here at this awesome church. I know you guys thought it was awesome too. And I'm ecstatic that we are in our series entitled Jesus Is, and I'm still pumped up over Easter, how awesome Easter was. Did everyone have a good Easter weekend? Yes, I'm assuming so. I'm assuming everybody is going to say yes, they did. Had a great time celebrating with family and friends that Jesus Christ has risen. But I do know for some of us, for some people here, this Easter was not the same as usual for different reasons, but a lot of times it's for those who weren't at Easter dinner, Easter lunch. Either you had a son or daughter that has moved away and they've gone to school or they couldn't come back to home, and so they weren't there for Easter dinner or Easter lunch, or you were out of town for Easter, so you weren't there for the normal Easter celebration. My whole family, when I say my whole family was out of town except for me. So I spent my first Easter alone, like by myself, and watching sports. So it wasn't that bad because I got to watch what I wanted to watch, but it was different. It wasn't the same Easter, like ham and all the stuff we usually have. But I want you to know that if you being here this morning, that you are in a place where you're welcome. You're in a place where we love you. We're in a place where we really, truly want to do life together. So next time, if you have Easter and you're going to be alone, let's not do it alone. Let's just get together and have fun and celebrate Christ is risen. So hopefully you had a great Easter weekend. Like we said, we had a great turnout for the Easter egg hunt, and the Easter service was awesome. And so now we get to wrap up our series, Jesus Is, which I'm really, really looking forward to this message this morning. Before we get into the message, there's two announcements I want to make, or two things I want to bring attention to. Next week, we are going to be having our fifth Sunday, and on our fifth Sunday here at Bowie City Church, we want to do something different. We don't want to have every Sunday be like every other Sunday. So on the fifth Sundays, there's usually 3 or 4 of those a year, we do something different. And 2 of those fifth Sundays, we do a grocery store buyout. What does that mean? We partner with the Bowie Food Pantry, and we restock their shelves. You may not have known this, you may not really been aware of this, that there is a hunger problem in our city, in our county overall, especially there's a hunger problem. And so the Bowie Food Pantry runs out of food consistently, and we want to do our part to end hunger. There should be no reason why anybody should go hungry in this area, in this country, but especially in this city. So we want to do our part to end hunger in the city. And so if you are looking for a way to give back, to serve, you're looking for a way to invite somebody in church that you really don't want to invite to church, like a church service, like what we're doing today, but something that is more inviting, next week is the Sunday. Come next Sunday, none of this will be set up. We'll get together to pray, and then we'll hand out instructions, and we'll hand out money to go out and stock the food pantry. So make sure you come to that next Sunday. Make sure you invite a friend, another family, invite somebody, even if you are a student and you're like, hey, we're doing something really cool in my church. We're going to go buy groceries. And you're like, what? You do that at church? Yes, and you should come too. And they give you the money, so you don't have to spend any of your own money. And I wanted to say this, that if you don't invite people, that means you don't really care about people. So that's just kidding. You do love people. But the more people you invite, the more we can buy. That's how it works. So if this place is packed, this place is full with a lot of families, first-time families, we can buy even more food because many hands make light work. So that is next Sunday. If you got a T-shirt, if you got one of the great T-shirts from the Easter egg hunt, we encourage you to wear that next Sunday. If you have an older Bowie City Church shirt, we encourage you to wear that next Sunday as well. If you don't have one, you can get a free T-shirt next week. And so if you weren't at the Easter egg hunt and you didn't get a gray shirt, or if you don't have a white one, come next week and you'll get a free T-shirt. So that's an incentive to come and invite people to come to that. So that's next week, which is awesome. And then we're going to be moving into, after next week, we're moving into our new series called Bless This Home. Bless This Home is going to be our series in May, and this is all about asking God to bless our households. And what is that really? What is the intent of this message? Well, we want our families to enjoy peace. We want them to enjoy happiness and to be content and have contentment. But so often we stumble through the most important relationships. So often we stumble through our relationship with our husband, with our wife. We stumble through our relationship with our children. We stumble through our relationships with God and how that affects our home. So in this Bless This House series, we want everyone to discover the 4 things that we ask in God to bless our homes with. There's going to be purity, peace, righteousness and persecution, that God will protect us from persecution. So that's next month. We're pumped up. We're excited for that. I just want to touch base on that so you know what to look forward to in the month of May. Bless this home. But we need to wrap up Jesus Is first. We need to wrap up this series, Jesus Is. And during this series, our goal and hope was to encourage you, to challenge you, to stretch you in what you knew or what you felt like you knew about Christ, if what you felt you knew about Jesus, or to know Jesus better, to come to a better understanding of who this man is and was. Also to challenge you and who Jesus should be to you. You may have been a follower of Christ since you were a little guy and now, or a little girl, and now you are an adult and you've been following, but there's always something you can learn more about Jesus. There's always something that we can say, I'm not following him the way I should be. He's not who he needs to be in my life. So that's the hope of this series, that we challenge you with that. And so we move into this last part of who Jesus is. And this last part, we've gone through that Jesus is real. We've gone through that Jesus is coming again. We're going through that Jesus was a lamb and that Jesus is alive. But this statement is the statement that brings the most chaos, that brings the most dissension, that brings the most strife when it comes to Jesus. What Jesus is, what we're going to say right now, is the biggest division, causes the most fights, causes the most wars, causes governments to be torn apart, wars to happen, people killed in this, because Jesus is God. Everyone say Jesus is God. Jesus is God. That statement is what causes a lot of people not to be a follower of Jesus Christ. That statement is a reason why a lot of people fight. A lot of people have dissension in their family. For us as Christians that follow Christ, you say, well, of course he's God. Why else would I follow him? If he wasn't God, then he'll just be another dude. But for those who aren't followers of Jesus Christ, those who aren't Christians, those who aren't Christ followers, this statement is heavy. This statement makes our religion, or makes our relationship with God totally different from everybody else. When it comes to Jesus, it's the hardest thing to deal with, that Jesus is God. And why? Why is this so hard? Well, Jesus made these claims about himself. Jesus made these outlandish claims. For a lot of people, it's outlandish. It's like there's just no way that this guy could be what he's saying, what he's claiming to be. So before we get into what Jesus claimed to be, we're going to see what others said about Jesus. So we're going to look at the book of John. So you can turn to John chapter 1 in the house Bibles there, or in your own Bible. If you're looking for John, it's going to be page 739. I lost my page. 39. 739, the book of John. John is my favorite. It's my two books of the Bible that are my favorite, the book of John and Ephesians. And John is one of my favorite books of the Bible. And it really wasn't until later on in my life where I really came to admire the book of John. And I was at this church conference I went to. Actually, it was a youth ministry conference I went to. And at conferences, if you've ever been to one, there's a speaker every 20, 50 minutes, there's a speaker that comes up. Well, in between speakers, they have like the band will play, or somebody will get up and do a skit, or there'll be things like that. Well, in between speakers, there was this guy who got up, and he got up on stage, and he just walked on stage, had a microphone, and he just started talking. And as he started talking, you started to realize that he was quoting the Bible. And come to the end of when they did an interview, this guy had memorized more than half of the Bible. Half the Bible. And he could start at any point in the Bible and just give you chapter and verse. And so one of the times he got up, he quoted the book of John. And he started at John 1. And I was just heavily impressed. Like, oh my gosh, he's quoting John. And in an interview, they could say, well, what does John 5:4 say? And he would just tell you, because he lived in the Word and how the Word changed his life. So I was like, I'm going to memorize the book of John. I'm not there yet. I'm still working on it. I'm on chapter 1, but I would love to memorize the book of John. John chapter 1 is one of my favorite chapters in all the Bible. And we're going to see what John says about who Jesus is. What did John claim Jesus is or to be? So it says this in verse 1. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing that has been made has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. Then you drop down to verse 14. Verse 14, John goes on to say, the Word became flesh, made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Now, that may not sound very, very direct. What is John saying here? What I want you to do in your own Bible or your own device, I want you to highlight the word word. I want you to highlight the word word or circle it, underline it. You can write in the Bible. It's okay. And underline he or him. So anytime you see he or him or the word word, I want you to highlight it, underline it. Why? Because this is what John is saying. John is saying this. In the beginning, at creation, when everything started, there was the Word. So we're like, okay, got it, Word. And Word is capitalized. So usually when there's a capital in it, it's a pronoun. We're naming something. We all know that from our PG County education. If you went to another school, you got a better education. Just kidding. But we know that that's a pronoun. We're actually giving a name to something. So in the beginning was the Word. All right, John, what's about this Word? And the Word was with God. So we have the Word that's here, and now we have God that's here. Okay, so in the beginning, there was God, and there was a Word. All right, John, I'm following you. Now what's going on? What's next? Then John goes on to say, the Word was God. Okay, so now the Word is this. They're two in the same. I know this left hand and right hand, but they're two in the same. They're not linked together where they're two different entities and you can pull them apart. No, they are one and the same. So what John is saying is, in the beginning was the Word, and this Word is the name. This person, this thing is called Word, and there was God, and then you put them together, and they were one. They were one together. All right, John. So he was with God in the beginning. Who is he? The he is referring back to the Word because it's capitalized just as the Word is. So this he is the Word. So you're like, okay, John, I got it. The Word is a dude, and this dude's name is Word. Sweet. Back like 1990s language. Word. All right, sweet. Word. So through him being the Word, all things were made. Without him, nothing that was made has been made. So this Word, this he, made everything, and without him, nothing could have been made. Nothing. This whole world. So creation couldn't even start it. Right, John? That's what you're saying? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay, John, what else are you saying? So in him, this person, this he, that was the Word, was life. And that light was the light of man to all men. So that dude, that man that's named Word, if he was removed, there would be total darkness. If he was not here, nothing would be here. He's the thing that holds molecules together. He's the thing that keeps atoms from splitting apart. Like he is everything. He was in the beginning. This person, he, Word, is God. John, I'm like, whoa, that's heavy. All right, so this dude is God. All right, so then John goes down to verse 14, and he says, then the Word became flesh. So, John, are you saying like the spiritual up here guy then now came down to earth? Yes, he became earth, and he dwelled with us. He lived with us. John, who is this guy? Like, who is this? Oh, John says, you don't know? You've seen him. You've seen his glory. We've seen his glory? Yes, you've seen his glory. The one and only, the Son, capital S Son, like God's Son, like the same capital S for he and capital the W he, like that's all together. So he's God's Son? Yes, he's God's Son, who came from the Father full of grace and truth. John, who is this, John? It's Jesus. John is claiming right here that God is Jesus and that Jesus is God, and there's no separating the two. They're not two separate entities. They are two and one of the same. In Genesis 1:26, when they go and create man, they say, we're going to make man in our image, in our likeness, not in Jesus' likeness, not in God the Father's likeness, not in the Holy Spirit's likeness, but in our likeness. Jesus is God, and God is Jesus, and that is heavy. That is like, whoa, okay, it's one thing for someone else to say it, for John to say it, and we're like, all right, John, you believe that Jesus is God. But what did Jesus say? What did Jesus himself claim? Last week, we talked about the message of Easter and what happened during Easter. During Easter, Jesus was arrested. He was betrayed by Judas for 30 pieces of silver, and he was arrested. And him being arrested, he was falsely accused. They had no reason to arrest Jesus. He hadn't done anything wrong that caused for him to be arrested. But they arrested him anyway. So they tried to find a reason to put Jesus to death. They arrested him wrongly, and now they're trying to find a reason to kill him, and they can't. They can't find a reason to kill him. So the religious leaders at that time, the pastors, guys like me, but way worse. I wouldn't have done it. But guys like me, pastors, they were trying to find a reason to kill Jesus. And so it says this in Matthew 26:59 through 64. It says this, and this is putting all the verses together. It says, the chief priests, the pastors, they were looking for false evidence against Jesus so they can put him to death. Arrested him at night, did this horrible trial, took him to King Herod. He's like, I don't want this crazy guy in here. You go away, take him to Pilate. Pilate says, well, I don't see nothing wrong with him. So they're trying to find a reason, but they can find nothing. So then they say this to Jesus, say, tell us if you are the Christ. Tell us if you are the Son of God. And this is Jesus' reply. He says, yes, it is as you say. Jesus right here claims, agrees with what they're saying. They question him, are you the Christ? Are you the Son of God? And Jesus says, yes, I am who you say. I am the Son of God. I am God. Jesus goes on to say later or earlier in the Bible, he says this in John 10:30. He says, the Father and I are one. The same thing that John has talked about in chapter 1, that the Father, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, like they were one. He says, the Father and I are one. Jesus claimed to be God. Jesus claimed to be God, which is heavy, which is like, oh my gosh, this dude actually claimed to be God, and so we have to deal with that. And they had to deal with it. And this made them irate. This made them want to kill Jesus so often because he claimed to be God. Goes on to say this in verse 31, still in John 10, it says, again, his Jewish opponents picked up stones to stone him. But Jesus said to them, I have shown you many good works from the Father. For which of these do you stone me? Jesus says, I say that I'm God, and I've shown you that I'm doing God-like things. I'm doing things that only God can do. Which one of these things, which one of these reasons are you going to stone me for? And this is amazing. This is still going on today. They say this. This is their reply, verse 33. We are not stoning you for your good work. They replied, but for blasphemy, because you, a mere man, claim to be God. This is the reason that people just don't want to do anything with Jesus, because he claims to be God. And not only he claims to be God, he lived like he was God. He spoke in authority that he was God. He would take scripture, he would take the law, and he would teach it as if he was the full authority. And the religious leaders and the Jewish people were like, who is this man? He's just from Nazareth. That was like, who is this dude who is, if Jesus was from Lanham? He's just from Lanham. Like this, how can he say he's God? He's only from up the street. There's no way. He's JoJo's son. He's a carpenter. He builds tables. Like, no, he can't be God. That dude needs to be put to death. We need to stone him. This is a powerful thing that Jesus is claiming. Powerful, claiming to be one with the Father. Now, I know we don't use the term being one often, but that means that they cannot be separated. I know when you're a married couple, they say, now we're bringing a husband and wife together and the two become one. Yeah, they become one and they're one and the same, but they're not in the same as God the Father and God the Son are the same. They are one. You cannot separate the two of them. Jesus is saying, the Father is an extension of me, and I am an extension of the Father. What the Father says, I say, and what the Father do, I do, because we are one and the same. So people hated that. And so that's one thing and enough. That's one thing that's like, okay, we can deal with that, or Jesus is just claiming something. But now here's the other thing. This is what Jesus says here, what he also claims here, the second point, is something that is going against the culture from 2,000 years ago all the way today. Jesus claimed to be God, but then Jesus also claims to be the only way. The only way. Jesus claims the only way. And that goes against everything that our culture says, because you may have heard this before, you may hear it on TV, at work, at school, that this is what become the truth, that what is true for you is true for you. And what's true for me is true for me. It's my truth. You may have heard this statement before. It's old statement, to thy own self be what? True. To be true to you. That's it. My truth. Not your truth. Not the truth of the Bible. Not some other religion. It is my truth. And Jesus says, I am the only way. I am the only truth. And that goes counter to culture from 2,000 years ago to even today. And this is something that I learned, that when I was a kid, that there was a way to do something, but that way, I thought everybody did it. I thought everybody did certain things the same way. Yes, you all have to put on our shoes the same way. We all put on our pants one leg at a time. But when it came down to actually doing something external, I figured we all did it the same. And it wasn't until I got married that I figured out that we all don't do things the same. We all don't do the things that we're like, this is the way to do it. For example, when it comes to folding a towel, this is what happened in my house. So I got married, right? And before I got married, this is how I was taught the way, the right way, the only way to fold a towel, because any other way I folded a towel was wrong, right? So this is how I was taught. Took the towel, folded like this, folded like that, and then we took it like this, and then we folded it again. This was the only way a towel was to be folded in the Boulding household. Did it any other way, it was wrong. So I grew up thinking, this is the way. This is the only way. And then I got married, right? I got married, and a simple exercise of doing laundry together, this is going to build our marriage together, and I fold the towel this way. And my wife says, what are you doing? I say, I'm folding the towel. She says, no, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am. This is how you do it. She says, no, this is not how you fold a towel. This is how you fold a towel. And so she showed me this. You fold it like this, and then you cut it in half, and then you tri-fold it like this. This is how you fold a towel. I'm like, oh no, this is not how you fold a towel. I'm like, my mama said, she was like, I don't care what your mama said. This is how you're going to fold a towel in this house. I'm like, well, now I'm perplexed because my mama said that this is the way you fold a towel, but now my wife that I love says this is the way to fold a towel. And so I came to this conclusion about when it comes to being right or the way. I found that there's Dione's way, then there's the right way, and then there's the wife way. Like, that's the way it goes. Like, it's my way, the right way, and then the wife way. And then if you don't get that right, it's get out the way. Like, move, get out of the way. Like, I'll do it. That's how it goes. And I'm like, okay, this is how it must work when it comes to folding a towel, that I must, so this, if you look at our closet, this is how I fold a towel now. Mom, you were wrong. Folding a towel, like there is a way, there's the right way. And when it comes to Jesus, that's the same thing that he's saying. He's saying, look, you're gonna find that there's many ways. People are gonna say there's many ways, but there's only one way. Jesus says this in John 14:6. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the light. No one comes to the Father except through me or except by me. Jesus doesn't say there's a way. He didn't say I am a way. He didn't say that I am a truth. He doesn't say that I am a life. He says, no, I am the way. I'm the truth. I am the life. No one, he says. How many people? No one. Jesus, how many? No one. Okay, no one what? No one comes to the Father. Okay, where's the Father? I'm not asking this rhetorical. I'm asking you a question. Where is the Father? The Father. In heaven. The Father's in heaven. So no one can get to the Father who is in heaven. Okay, Jesus, why can't no one get there? Oh, well, he's in heaven, but the only way you can get there is through Jesus, through me. I am the only way. And this goes counter to the culture that we have, because the Bible says that the path, the gate is wide. The path is wide. A lot of people are going to go down this path and they think that they are getting to the Father. They think they're getting to heaven. And a lot of people think that. A lot of people think by my good looks, by my good deeds, by my good gifts, by my good job, by my good parenting, my good grades, by my good relationships, by me going on good mission trips, and by my good acts, by my good trades that I do, by my good talent, my good skills, and by my good behavior, I'm going to get to see the Father. That is what it is. And Jesus says, no, that's not the way. People don't like Jesus because they say Jesus is narrow-minded. You're so narrow-minded to be a follower of Jesus Christ. You think you're the only way. And Jesus says, yep, I am narrow-minded. I am the only way. It is narrow. The gate is small to get into heaven. We live like we're going to get to heaven by just doing pie-in-the-sky things, by being good people, by not rocking the boat, by having our good outweigh our bad. And Jesus says, no, the gate is way narrower than that. It is tiny. How shocking is it going to be for some people when their life here ends and they're not in the presence of God? How scary, like that shouldn't be scary, but for some, it's scary reality. They think they're going to heaven. They think they're going to be with the Father because they did all these right things, all these good things. And Jesus says, there's only one way to see the Father. There's only one way to heaven, and it's through me. That's the truth, and people reject it, and people have a hard time with that. Yeah, you claim to be God and God's Son, but now you're claiming to be the only way. You follow Muhammad, there's Buddhism, there's Hinduism, there's all these other ways to God, and you're claiming to be the only way? Jesus, I can't deal with that. I can't deal with that. And this is what pins brother against brother, and father against wife, and children against parents, and groups against other groups, and nations against nation, because Jesus says, I am the only way. The only way. These claims are huge when it comes to Jesus. And it forces all of us in this room, every person that's going to hear this message until the end of time, until there's no more internet, because you can go on YouTube and watch this video or download it out on our iTunes account. You have to come to this conclusion, everybody. And this is called the trilemma, not the dilemma, trilemma. And this is C.S. Lewis coined this phrase. He says this about Jesus. Either Jesus is a liar, a lunatic, or Lord. You have to pick one of those three. You can't decipher any other three. Either he was a liar, he was a lunatic, or he was Lord. Either Jesus is who he says he is, or he was a liar, or he was just outside his head, like he was crazy. He was a lunatic. C.S. Lewis says this. This is a quote from his book, Mere Christianity. And if you don't know who C.S. Lewis is, if you've seen Chronicles of Narnia, that's C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis says this in his book. It's awesome. He says this, I'm trying here to prevent anyone saying the foolish things that people often say about him, often say about Jesus. What do they often say, C.S. Lewis? They say this, I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I do not accept him or do not accept his claim to be God. C.S. Lewis says, I'm trying to stop people from saying that. See, that is one thing that we must not say, he says. A man who says this sort of thing that Jesus would say is not a good moral teacher. A man that would say the things that Jesus said is not a good moral teacher. How's that possible? Well, if Jesus says, love thy neighbor, give to the poor. If somebody asks for you, give your shirt and give your tunic too. He says, somebody hits you, turn the other cheek. He says, be meek. He says all these great things. He says, if you look upon a woman with lust, you've already committed adultery in your heart. Like, set the standard higher. Jesus says all these great moral things. And we're like, oh, we like those things. And then at the same time, he claims to be God. How can you can't accept one and not accept the other? That's what C.S. Lewis is saying. You can't say, oh, he's a great moral teacher, but he lies. He's a liar. Which one is it? It can't be both ways. Oh, he was a good teacher. Jesus does not want to be known as a good teacher. Jesus wants to be known as the way. And we have to come to a conclusion with that. He goes on to say this about Jesus. He says, Jesus, a man who says the things that Jesus says, is not a great moral teacher. Either he is a lunatic, and the kind of lunatic that he's talking about, C.S. Lewis says, a lunatic like on the level of a man who thinks he's a poached egg, like crazy. Like a guy's walking around and is like, who are you? I'm an egg. You guys remember the Snickers commercial with the football and the quarterback, and he like throws the ball and he gets sacked and he gets a concussion, and they bring him to the sideline. They say, hey, do you know where you are? He's like, I'm at the game. And they say, okay, well, do you know who I am? He says, I'm the coach. You're the coach. He's like, do you know who you are? I'm Batman. He's like, uh-oh, we got a problem. So that's what he's saying. Somebody who thinks that they're a poached egg, they think that they're a cloud, whatever. Like, that's kind of crazy, that kind of lunatic. That's the kind of guy you have to view Jesus. Either he was a lunatic, or he was something way worse, or he says he was the devil of hell. You must make your choice, he says. Either this man was the Son of God and is the Son of God, or he's just a madman, or he is something worse. So you can shut him up about being a fool. You can spit at him. You can kill him as a demon. Or you have to fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. We all have to make that decision. Either Jesus was a liar, or he was a lunatic, or he was Lord. You choose. You decide. And this is what Jesus wanted to know when it comes down. He says, I can make these claims that I'm God. I can make these claims that I am the only way. But he wants to know, what do you say? What do others say? He says this in Mark 8:27-30. It says, Jesus and his disciples, they went to a village around Caesarea Philippi. And on the way, he asked the disciples, he says, who do people say I am? And they reply, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others say that you're one of the prophets. Like, they're giving all these different things. Then Jesus says this, but what about you? Who do you say I am? Who do you say I am? That is the most important thing. Jesus makes these claims. Jesus makes these true statements, and then he leaves it up to us to figure out, and for us to decide, who do we say he is in our life? Who do we claim Jesus to be? Not who he claims to be, and not what somebody else claims to be. What do you claim him to be? And Peter goes on and says that you are the Messiah. You are the Son of God. See, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your mama thinks. It doesn't matter what your dad thinks. It doesn't matter what I think. And what truly matters for your life is what you think and what you claim Jesus to be. Because there will come a day where everybody's going to confess him to be Lord. Philippians 2:9-11 says, therefore God exalted him to the highest place and gave him the name above all names, above every name. It says that that name is Jesus, and every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Everybody is going to claim Jesus as Lord. There will come a day where you will have no choice. He will show up, as Jason said. He's coming again. When he shows up, there will be no doubt. He is Lord. He is God. And everybody is going to bow down, and they're going to say, you're God. You're going to be forced to. You have to. You're not going to want to, like, you're going to say, I don't want to do it, and I'm being forced. No. The power is so great, it's going to drive you to the ground, and you're going to claim him to be God. But at that point, if you're forced to, it is too late. It is over. Followers of Christ and those who hate him, those atheists, those who oppose him, will all be in the same spot on bended knee, claiming him to be God. That's in heaven, on earth, and under the earth. Heaven, earth, and hell, all's going to say it. Everybody's going to say it. We're going to claim him to be Jesus. But if you haven't made that decision before that happens, it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late. See, we want you to fully experience Jesus. Our vision statements here is that we want people and family to become fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ. Not fully devoted followers of Bowie City Church. Definitely not fully devoted followers of Dione Bolding, because you'll end up following the towel wrong. Like, you need to be fully experienced of Jesus Christ. Fully devoted follower of Jesus Christ. And that is what we want everybody here to do, is to experience him fully. And what do we want you to experience? We truly want you to experience his power. Say power. Everyone say power. We want you to experience Jesus' power. And what kind of power we're talking about? We're not talking about like muscle power. We're not talking about like car engine power, but we're talking about transforming power in our life. There's a story in the book of John, and other gospels say that this man was blind, and Jesus decided that he was going to heal this man. So he took some dirt, he picked up the dirt, and he spit in the dirt and made mud. And you're like, Jesus, that's gross. But he made some mud, and he put the mud on the guy's eyes, and then he takes the mud and he wipes it away. And when he wipes it away, the guy can see. He's no longer blind. And then he goes out and he tells everybody, the blind man, which I would do too. I would tell I can see everything. I'm like, oh, that's what you look like? Ooh, that's kind of bad. Oh, look at the trees. That's all. Like, I would be talking to everybody. I can see now. And from birth, I was blind, but now I can see. And the teachers and the Pharisees and the pastors, those leaders at the time, they're so like, what is going on? Is this a trick? Like, was this guy actually blind from birth? And so they went to the parents and they say, parents, what is going on? Like, was this really, really blind? Can he really see? And the parents say, look, he's a grown man. Like, he's a grown man, dog. Go ask him. Like, go find him. Like, don't come ask me. He says he can see. Go ask him. And so the Pharisees and the teachers, they go find the blind man, and they ask him this. This is in John 9:17. It says, finally, they turn to him again, to the blind man, and they say, what have you to say about him, about Jesus? And he replies this, whether he is a sinner or not, I don't know. This I do know. The one thing I do know, I was blind, but now I can see. Like, that's the power I can talk. I can't tell you if he's ever sinned before. I can't tell you what he had for breakfast. I can't tell you where he came from. I couldn't even tell you what he looked like. But what I can tell you is that when he touched me, I can see. That's the power we're talking about. That kind of power. You're like, I don't have anything like that. Like, I'm in good health. Like, I don't. That power is awesome. That experiencing that kind of power is awesome. And if you have been saved by grace, if you have been forgiven your sins, you have experienced that kind of power that removes death from your life, that kind of power that no longer separates you from God. To experience that kind of power, that power where you can go and pray for something and know that God wants to hear your prayers. That kind of power is what we want everybody to experience. Not just here in this church, not just here in this city, but that's the heartbeat of my heart, the heartbeat of the leadership of this church, to say we want everybody to experience that God-saving power. We want you to experience his power. We want you to experience his presence. Say presence. We want you to experience Jesus' presence. Like, this presence it just changes everything. Have you ever walked up to somebody and you don't know them from Adam, like you never met them before, and you're in conversation with them, and eventually you start get this feeling like they're Christian, they're a follower, and then you say, "Are you a Christian?" They're like, "Yes," and you're like, "Oh, me too." And you have like this Christian moment. Like, that is the presence of Jesus on their life. Like, you can sense it, you can feel it. We want everybody to have that. It's one thing to call yourself a follower of Jesus Christ, but if you really want to experience him, you want you to experience his power and his presence. Because when you have the presence of Jesus, when he is around, when he's coming through you in the words and your actions and how you love people, it changes people. 1 Corinthians 14, 24 and 25, it says this, but if an unbeliever or inquirer, somebody who's not a follower of Christ, they come into what? Come into a worship gathering, and everybody's prophesying, everybody's worshiping God of all the great things he's going to do. It says this, they are convicted of sin and they are brought under judgment by all, not because we are to be judged, but because of Christ in us. It convicts and moves their hearts. And as a secret, in verse 25 says, the secrets of their hearts are laid bare. And so they will fall down and they will worship God and claim, God is really among you. God is really among you. When we are in worship, when we're singing songs, and I know sometimes you don't want to sing the song, sometimes you don't like that song, we don't like the way you sing it, but when you are worshiping in spirit and truth, it changes people. People say there's something different. When people come to a Bowie City Church worship gathering and then they leave and say there was something different going on. It wasn't your singing. I hear some of you. It's okay, but it's not the singing that's making people great. Like, Caleb he's not a paid musician rock star. He's not Beyonce, which I'm glad he's not, but he's not. Like, people aren't coming to hear him sing. People aren't coming to hear me play and Lily play, and they're not coming to hear me preach. They come back because they have experienced God. They experience Jesus' presence, and it changes them. We want everybody to fully experience Jesus' power. We want everybody to fully experience his presence. And we want everyone to fully experience his peace. Say peace. Everybody to experience his peace, his power, his presence, and his peace. There's this peace about Jesus when he's in your life that surpasses all understanding. All understanding. John 14:1 and 27. It says this, you put the verses together, it says, do not let your hearts be troubled. This is Jesus speaking here. He says, trust in God and trust also in me. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not fear. Jesus goes on and says, take heart, for I have overcome the world. This peace that Jesus gives you does not make sense. When things are going wrong, when the doctor gives you a diagnosis that should send you haywire, and then you have this peace about you, people don't understand it. When the bills are due and you got laid off and the money's not right, and you're like, they're going to do this, and they're coming for my house, they're coming for this, and you're like, God's got it. And they're like, how come you're not sweating it? When your kids are in trouble and they're not doing what you have raised them to do and how you're praying to do, but you have this understanding and peace, you just say, it's Jesus. It's Jesus. I love confusing people. I love getting people to go, Burr? Like the dog that hears a funny noise, like, huh? Like when they like, this is going on, all this is going on in your life, Dione, this, that, and that. I'm like, it's all good. God's got it. And they're like, what? What? Peace. I'm so blessed by him, by his power and his presence. I don't want to live life without his power, without his peace, without his presence. I don't want to go on a date night without his power or presence. I don't want to get up here and speak and to leave without his power and presence. I don't want to go out into the world without his peace. I definitely don't want to drive on the Beltway in 66 without his peace. Like, I need all of him all the time in me. We want everyone to experience Jesus because he is God. And more importantly, the most important thing, we want everyone to experience, not just his power, presence, and his peace, but to experience his salvation. Experience the salvation that Jesus provides. Romans 10:9 says, if you confess that Jesus is Lord and you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. To experience the salvation that you do not have to take your last breath here on earth and be forever separated from God. And I've said this since I've been preaching since I was 18. Jesus is real as the chair you're sitting in. He is real, and salvation is just as real. Either you're going to be with God when your life here ends, or you're not. To fully experience his salvation. Jesus is God. He is the only way to experience any of this. He's the only way to have truth and life in your life. And he gives it abundantly. Jesus is God. Now the question for you to answer, who is he to you? Who is he to you in a grand picture scheme? Who is he to you when you look at him and you worship him? And that's the easy one, I think. A lot of us, especially us followers of Christ, and I believe a lot of us in this room are followers of Jesus Christ and we're called ourselves Christians. That's the easy one. Who is Jesus to you moment by moment? Is he the guy that is leading you every moment, and then eventually he becomes your co-pilot, and then eventually he becomes the backseat guy? Like, who is he every moment? If we fully live like Jesus is God and he is Lord, every second of our day, all our lives would be different. We would speak different. We would love different. We would be patient. We would have peace. We would understand his power. We wouldn't worry. We wouldn't have anxiety. We would know what to say, and we would know when not to say something. Like, if we actually lived like Jesus is God every second of the day, our lives would be forever changed. None of us would live the way we live right now. Guarantee. Why? Because we are sinful people, and we mess up every day. We fall short of his glory every day. And so I encourage you, there's two groups of people. Those who are followers of Christ, I encourage you, and I encourage myself, I preach to myself, to live like Jesus is God every day, every moment. I walk in that every moment. And what I say, what I don't say, what I listen to, what I don't listen to, what things I take in from people, what things I don't take in from people, where I go, where I don't go, because Jesus is leading me. He is the Lord of my life, capital L. Not Lord and Lady like you're going to medieval times, Lord and Lady, but actual Lord, like he's over everything I do. I need to live like that moment by moment by moment. And I encourage all of you, from the child and the youngest kid in this room to the oldest, to live like Christ is God, to live like Jesus is God. And then the other group, if you don't know, if you truly don't know, if you truly don't understand that Jesus is Lord and he died for you and he is your salvation, that you make that decision. Either he's Lord or he's a liar or he's a lunatic. Because people are asked every day, people are asked, hey, do you go to church? Yeah, I go to church. Oh, so who's Jesus? Jesus is God's son? Okay. How do you get to heaven? Oh, you just be a good person. Like, that is not how you get to heaven. How are you going to, when you die here, are you going to heaven? Yes, I'm going to heaven. Why are you going to heaven? How do you know you're going to heaven? I really don't know I'm going to heaven. Like, I hope I go to heaven. No. Then you're not a true follower of Jesus Christ. Jesus is the only way. If you don't know, you can have assurance of knowing where you will go when life here ends. Jesus is real. Jesus is coming again. He is the Lamb and he is alive. But Jesus is God. And let us live and act like he is Lord of our lives. Let us pray. God, I thank you for your word. I thank you for your presence. I thank you for your power. I thank you for your peace. God, far too often we live like we don't know you. Far too often we live like you aren't God. Far too often we live like you aren't Lord. Either in our doubts, and our questioning, and us turning our back against you, and us just not being who we know you've called us to be. And God, I thank you that you've always chosen us. While we were yet still sinning, you've chose us. God, we thank you for that. God, we thank you for this series, and we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, that you sent down to earth to live a perfect life, to be that perfect sacrifice so that we would have that perfect gift of salvation and eternity with you, Lord. Jesus, thank you for choosing the cross. Thank you for taking on our pain, taking on our iniquity, taking on our burden, taking on our sin at the times where we mess up, Lord. I thank you for that. But God, I ask you to powerfully convict us, not just in this series, not as we just move on to something else, but day to day, moment by moment, live like you are God. That we fully live that way. How different would our life can be? God, I can't even imagine what it would look like, how my life would be different if I actually 100% followed you as being God. God, that's the prayer I have for myself, for my family, for this church, for all we come in contact with, that you would come and show up and be real in their life every day. That we would not have to doubt, we don't have to worry, we don't have to fret, we don't have to even show a care of what we're going to say, do, how things are going to come about, because we say, God's got it. Because Jesus is Lord, and he's the only way to truth. He's the only way to life. So God, convict us, show us how to live that way, moment by moment. But God, for someone in this room, Lord, truly doesn't know you. Someone in this room, Lord, I know, someone in this room, I don't personally notice, but the feel I have is that they think they know you. They have some doubt. They hope they know you. Like they have the head knowledge, but they don't have the heart transformation, God. And God, I ask you to move. I ask the Holy Spirit to move in their heart and say, it's you. You don't know. You doubt. You haven't fully given your life. And that is you. It's simple, and we'll go through this again last week. It's to accept that Jesus is God's Son, and you believe that he lived and died and God rose him from the dead, and you confess that he is Lord, and you confess your sins. And in doing that, he will deliver you from your sin. He will deliver you from death, and that your eternity will be forever changed. The ABCs of salvation sounds so simple like kindergarten, but this will save your life. Won't make your life better, but you'll make your life forever, eternally changed. God, there's someone in this room. Move. Speak. Let them make a decision for you today. If that is you, we ask that you just move to the back of the room, or you stay in your moment, or come see me, or come see Jason or Caleb or one of the other volunteers here and say, I made a decision to follow Jesus Christ for the first time. I thought I knew, but I didn't really know. During this song, embrace the claims that the songs make about Christ, who God is, and who he should be in your life. In Jesus' name, amen.